Hi guys, Jess here. Today we're going to be making Seville orange marmalade, and I know a lot of you guys have been waiting some considerable time for me to do this, but I've been waiting for the Seville oranges off of my mother-in-law, but finally they've arrived. I've done a lot of the prep already because it is rather a long process, so we'll have to take some of the things as read, but I'll go through them. Obviously I've got all my lovely sterilised jars here that I've done in my pressure cooker. You can see how that's done on my other videos. I thoroughly recommend that. No other method will give you sterile jars, and I give a lot of my Seville orange marmalade away. It's a bit of a tradition type thing, so I want to make sure that nobody opens it with green fur on the top. It doesn't go down very well with the family and friends. So you know, do try and use the right method for sterilising your jars. Now I'm doing a batch of 1.5 pounds of Seville oranges, 3 pints of water, and then the 3 pounds plus of sugar. But we'll come to that bit in the second half of the video. First of all, let's talk about preparing the fruit. What we need to do is we need to get the Seville oranges, and we need to take all the juice and the pips and the pith out of the oranges and stick them in a straining bag. Now the easiest way to do this is, and I've already done most of my oranges, is to get your straining bag, however you make them. I've also got a post on my blog that tells you a really good way of making straining bags easily from dishcloths, would you believe? This is one of them. But get the straining bag and put it in the saucepan that you're going to be using, okay? And then you can just, as you're processing the oranges, you can simply put the peel, not the peel, the pith and the juice and the seeds into the straining bag, which will tie up in a bit. So that you need ready. Also you need somewhere to chop your peel up into, and we'll talk about chopping up the peel in a moment. So I've left a final half of orange to show you what the process is. Now normally when you eat an orange you cut it down the equator, if you like. Imagine it as the earth, and the bit that's got the stalk and the other end where the flower came off as the two poles. You normally cut an orange that way, don't you? For doing this job, it's better if you cut it pole to pole, okay? The reason being is that if you cut it across the equator, when you're trying to scrape the pith out, because there's weak points where the stalk comes out and the flower at the other end, the peel starts to fall to pieces and it ends up in all little bits, and so it's much easier. This is from years of painful experience, I'm telling you this. So it's much better if you cut it pole to pole, if you like. So all we do with this is the final half I've got. I squeeze the juice into the straining bag. So a lovely, gloriously messy business. Pull out as much of the guts as I can and put that in the straining bag. And then with a dessert spoon, you then want to scrape out the pith and get as much pith out as you possibly can. Now there's two reasons for this. One, it's not very nice to have the pith on the peel when you eat it. But there's another reason, and that is if you leave a lot of pith on the peel, when you come to the final boil with the sugar in and you bring it to the rolling boil, you will find that the scum that's always produced will stick to the pith like mad, and you'll have the devil's own job getting it off. And although it doesn't make any difference to the taste of the marmalade, if you want to show it or you want it to look nice for Auntie Ethel's Christmas present, then you know you don't want to do that. You want to have the peel nice in there without a load of bubbles and scum around it. So get as much pith off as you can. That's the pith, you see, off of this half of the orange. You see it hasn't fallen to bits too badly. Had I cut it the other way it would have been all in tiny pieces, believe me. That pith then wants to go in the straining bag, and there's a little bit more that I'll get off. Now the last thing is you've got to chop this peel up into the slices for the peel, you know, that you have in the marmalade. And believe me, I have tried every method there is going. I have wasted more Seville oranges trying to find shortcuts and lazy ways of chopping up pith than enough, because of course when I've ruined it, it's just a mulch in the bottom of a food processor. Then I can't use the oranges that that came with the peel, because it's out of sync, as it were, so the whole lot's got to go in the bin. The quickest way I've found is to use a sharp pair of kitchen scissors and just cut the peel into strips. Okay, so into strips of however long you like your bits of peel to be in your marmalade is how wide you want your strips to be. I mean, you're never going to get it beautiful, although, having said that, if you want to be really anal about it for showing, then I only use about 2/3 of the peel of all the oranges I use for a batch, if you understand what I mean. Because if I use all the peel, then there's too much peel in the marmalade. So if I was using 6 oranges, say 6 oranges came to the £1.5 oranges I wanted to use, I would only use 4 of them as the peel in the marmalade, because if I used all 6 there'd be too much peel in there. So you can choose your best bits of peel if you're going to get that thing about it, because you're showing it. So chop it into strips like that, and then with the scissors just cut it as fine as you want your final bits of marmalade, final bits of peel in your marmalade to be. And I tell you what, I've tried every blooming method you can possibly think of to get round this tedious job, and I haven't found one yet. So if anybody does find a method for getting round doing this, then please do tell me. All these clever, these things that get advertised on QVC channel or whatever it is, all these clever graters and what have you, I haven't found one of them that stands up to trying to cut up orange peel like this. And food processors, absolutely hopeless. So I'm afraid it's one of those things where you put on Radio 4 or whatever it is you like to listen to and get absorbed in what's going on the radio and try and forget the fact that you're bored to tears cutting up bits of orange peel. So there we have it. I've cut that bit, and I did my stint earlier of cutting up the rest of it. So that's the orange peel pretty much in there. I'll leave that bit out. I've got loads. So there's my orange peel, if you can see it, all chopped up. So all I have to do now is get hold of my straining bag and tie that up tightly with a piece of butcher's string, what I use. So I've just got to tie that up. Make sure you do tie it well, because the last thing you want is all of this stuff to come out in your juice, because that's just a nightmare. I mean, you can strain it back out again and what have you through an ordinary kitchen sieve, I guess, but you ideally don't want it to happen. So we just tie that up, so that's got all the peel, all the pith, all the pips and all the juice from the £1.5 of oranges in there. Okay, so that's now tied up, and that's in the bottom of there. We then put the peel in, free, in the saucepan. So the peel goes in, and then we need to add to that the 3 pints of water that go with this recipe. So I'll just walk over to my sink and give myself the appropriate amount of water in the measuring jug. That's 1.5 pints. That's one. And we'll take the second one. And it's another 1.5 pints. Okay. There we have it. Now, here you have a choice. If you want to go the old-fashioned way, you want to add the juice of a lemon to that, a big lemon or two small ones. Just add the juice. If you're going to do that, I suggest you squeeze it into the muslin bag while it's still open. So if any pips fall out of the lemon while you're squeezing it, they'll end up in the muslin bag. They won't do any harm, they'll just add to the pectin levels. And then, don't add the lemon peel or anything, just chuck it away. I'm not going to do that. because I don't want anything to contaminate the flavour of the Seville oranges. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add some citric acid, and I'm going to add 1 teaspoon, a good generous teaspoon of citric acid to that. I'll just go and get it off screen. Just talk amongst yourselves, I am still here. I'll get myself a spoon. There we are, back again. Here's my citric acid, easily available from any brewing shop, and I'm just going to add 1 generous teaspoon of citric acid to that. Okay, so that's it, that's the first stage. Now that needs to boil away for a good few hours. It needs to boil away until that pith, the peel that you've got in there, is really nice and tender. Unfortunately, there's not really any other way of testing whether it's tender or not other than to grit your teeth and bear it and bite it, because boy is it bitter when you do. But I would give it a couple of hours, nice simmer. I leave the lid on. Other people say reduce the volume. There's so much pectin and so much flavour in there, why waste it? You know, that'll set no problem. So a lid on, simmer it away for a couple of hours, and when mine's simmered away for that long and the peel is nice and soft, we'll come back and go to the next stage. Okay, so I'll see you later, guys. Hi guys, here I am back again. The fruit has been boiling away now for a couple of hours, and I turned it off a little while ago because I want it to cool down for this stage. I did test the pith to see whether it was soft. I mean the peel, sorry, to test whether it was soft, and I tested it again, and it's absolutely as bitter as hell. Oh, that is not a nice experience. However, it is soft, and you can taste already that, if you can get over the bitterness, that powerful orange flavour that's going to make such wonderful marmalade once the sugar is added. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to extract from the bag, the straining bag, as much of the goodness as we possibly can. Most of it will have boiled out into the liquor, but we want to see if we can extract some more out of it, and we've got a little trick for that. Take it out of the liquor and try and flick off as much of the peel, which will have got stuck to the sides of it, as you can, back into the liquid. And when you've managed to get all that off, like I have now pretty much, what you want to do is you want to squeeze that bag out. Now I'm going to transfer this liquor and obviously the sugar in the end to my really big stock pot, because I don't think I'm going to be able to get the sugar plus the liquid to boil happily in this saucepan without it, when the rolling boil comes along, boiling over the top. So I'm going to use my largest stock pot to finish off this marmalade. So what I need to do now is I need to squeeze this bag into there. Okay, so I squeeze it out by hand just to start with, a little bit, and then I've got a trick for you. What you do is you get 2 plates, stick it on one of them and spread it out a bit, get the second plate, put it on top and give it a good squeeze. And there you are, you can see all that goodness is coming out and into my big stock pot. Then I'll just move that over a bit to catch that edge bit that I didn't catch. Another good squeeze, and that's all the pectin, all the good setting agent, the pectin that's in the pips and the pith. Squeeze all of that out of there. Okay, so now we've got that squeezed into there. Then we'll pour our lovely liquor with our peel into this large stock pot. Make sure that all the peel goes with it. There we are. That's all going in to there. Now I've used 1.5 pounds of oranges, 3 pints of water, and now I'm going to add to it 3.5 pounds of sugar. Now most recipes will say for you to add the same as you do water, so in other words if you use 3 pints of water you use 3 pounds of sugar. But I add that extra ½ pound. It makes sure that we get a set first time off, and I think that this marmalade can quite easily cope with that extra bit of sugar. It's so bitter and so powerful in its oranginess that that extra ½ pound of sugar to guarantee a good set doesn't make it too sweet, not in any way at all. In fact, it just takes that slightly too much of a bitter edge off of it. But it's all personal taste, of course, and you know, that's the way I like it. So to the liquor, I've weighed out 3.5 pounds of sugar in here. I'm going to pour that in on top. There we go. Now that's all going to go on the heat. Okay, we're going to turn the gas on, and that's going to come to a boil, and it's going to come to a rolling boil, and by looking at the rolling boil we're going to know whether we've got a good set or not. But I'm not going to keep the film running and just watch this while it all heats back up and the sugar dissolves. I'll come back to you to show you the rolling boil in a moment or two. Okay? Okay, as you can see now we're starting to get close to a rolling boil. Boil is starting to happen round the sides, and you can see the scum starting to form. You can even, I have actually put it back into the smaller pan, as you can see, because I didn't think you were going to be able to see it very well in the larger one. As you can see, that's now coming to a rolling boil. There we are, and the scum is forming in the centre. I can turn that down a little, and as you can see that's producing a lovely rolling boil with lots of fizz. And that tells me that this marmalade is going to set without a doubt. If you don't get that rolling boil, if you just get it like ordinary water boils in a saucepan where it's just bubbling away, you know, with large bubbles bubbling up and down, then you're going to have to add some more sugar, or potentially some more acid or some more pectin. You can see that's boiling a beautiful rolling boil. But that should always be the case with marmalade. You should never really have to add anything else. There's so much pectin in the oranges, and plenty of acid, either using your lemon or the citric acid as I use, and that's long enough. If you've seen the rolling boil and you've seen the scum form like that on the surface, you know that's going to set. Don't boil it to death. Just turn that off the heat and that will set. I absolutely guarantee it. In fact, you can even see this scum on the surface is starting to hold together as I push it around with the wooden spoon. You can see that's holding together. That marmalade is going to set absolutely fine. So that's basically all there is to it. All you will need to do now is to carefully de-scum the surface, allow it to cool for about 10 minutes, then try and take the scum off as best you can, and then gently over the next 20 minutes or so give the marmalade a stir until the peel starts to sink. You know, the marmalade will start to get a bit thicker and the peel will start to distribute with it rather than just float on the surface. And at that stage then you want to transfer it with a ladle into your pre-sterilised jars and seal tight and store in a cool place. If you still find that the peel is rising to the surface, then a little tip is, if you don't want to show the marmalade of course, is to turn the jars upside down. Make sure they're screwed down tight. Turn the jars upside down and the peel will then rise to the bottom of the jar, if you like, if you can imagine that. And then 5 minutes later turn them back up the other way, and that should be sufficient to get it to distribute throughout. And there's your Seville orange marmalade. That is going to be a beautiful colour, it's going to be absolutely delicious, and it's going to have a perfect set, and it's as simple as that. So there we are guys, Seville orange marmalade, and there we are, there's the finished result. A beautiful jar, beautifully distributed peel, and it tastes absolutely divine. There's just one thing that I need to finish off with here. The more observant of you will probably have noticed that when I was putting the sugar in, I was saying that there was 3.5 pounds of sugar. We all have our strange mental aberration days. Don't ask me why I was doing that. Don't pay any attention to it. It's actually 4.5 pounds of sugar that went in there. Just to clarify that, I've put the recipe up, you'll see at the side there. So as you can copy it down, it's 1.5 pounds of oranges, 3 pints of water, 4.5 pounds of sugar, and a generous teaspoon of citric acid, or 1 large lemon, depending on which you prefer to use. So sorry about that, guys. Don't know why I had the mental aberration. These things happen. But that clarifies it. 3.5 pounds of sugar wouldn't be enough. 3.5 pounds of sugar would be fine if you use the old-fashioned recipe and leave the lid off when you're boiling the fruit, so as you reduce the volume down to 2/3 of what it was before, you will be able to use 3.5 pounds of sugar. But if you use my recipe and leave the lid on, so you keep as much of the marmalade as you can, then you will need 4.5 pounds of sugar. Okay, but other than that, it's great, and as you can see, what a beautiful product. Absolutely delicious. I can't wait till tomorrow's breakfast. Till next time, goodbye.